Now you're welcome back. We're going to reflect on the Premier League weekend that was. Kenny Cunningham, come in.
Evening, Joseph.
You okay?
I'm all good.
So, where will we start? Well, there's only one place we can start, Kenny. That's at West Ham beating Manchester United comfortably 2-0 in the end yesterday. We had the game live here on the show. I was watching it, so we watched it live, and then I was curious to see what match of the day would do last night. The first highlight they showed was in the 35th minute, because frankly the first 35 minutes were so pedestrian. But then things did kick off and West Ham won. It's fairly grim for Manchester United all of a sudden.
First of all, I'm amazed you said that's where we were going to start. I was nearly 100% sure you were going to say Stamford Bridge for the Chelsea-Liverpool game, but I'll go with you, Joe, you know best. But you're right, yeah, it was a funny old game, you're right, low in intensity. West Ham maybe expecting Manchester United to come at them a little bit more and be a little bit tentative themselves, but once they got a grip of the game, West Ham got a sense of maybe this Manchester United team were there for the take, and they were the better team, and were kind of deserving winners in the end. So, yeah, troubling in terms of the manner of the Manchester United performance. You know, you can get beaten any given day regardless of performance. But, yeah, the kind of the manner of the performance would have been a little bit troubling for Solskjaer, despite the fact, obviously, he was down a few players through injury. Still doesn't excuse the lack of intensity, kind of attitude amongst the majority of the players for the majority of that game.
I was just looking, The Guardian crystallised Man United's form since that PSG win, you know, the famous win back obviously in the Champions League. Since then, it's been 5 wins, 4 draws and 10 defeats in all competitions. And if you just want to go Premier League for a second, they've won 4, drawn 4, lost 7, which is 16 points in 15 games. 15 games is a decent sample size. And they were saying if you were to extend that form across a 38-game season, it would be 40 points, not far off relegation form. Since that PSG game, it's not just a this season thing, since that PSG game, things have been drifting pretty badly for United. I mean, it's hard to know how much blame Solskjaer should take and how much of it is to do with the issues at the club since Ferguson left, frankly. But the impact he made initially seems to have all but evaporated.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's absolutely true. In regards to particularly how they finished last season was a little bit of a worry, and obviously some talk there in terms of whether they jumped too quickly and give him the job. But that's by and by now. He's managing. Looks as if he will be for the foreseeable future. But if you're talking about the squad and the kind of the qualities of the squad at the moment in terms of where the weaknesses are, I think simply put, they're just short in certain key areas of the pitch, Joe. Still, they've made a couple of acquisitions in the summer. Wan-Bissaka in particular has impressed me. I think he's going to be an excellent player. He's going to develop into probably one of the best around. Harry Maguire, I've always had one or two small questions marks about. I know he's had a huge amount of plauded since the start of the season. Generally speaking, his play has been very good, but in moments for Manchester United this season, you've seen the small frailties in his game in terms of his kind of mobility. He's a big lad, 6'3", 4", carries a little bit of weight. I'm not saying he's overweight, just carries a little bit of weight. That affects him a little bit, Joe, in terms of kind of change of direction, a little bit of pace over 5 to 10 yards. You saw in the goal they conceded against Crystal Palace was a couple of weeks ago, Old Trafford, a little flick over the top. He couldn't recover back quickly enough, get in contact with AU. And you saw again at the weekend, Yarmolenko came in off the side, didn't do an awful lot, Joe, just checked it back onto his left foot, and he was the closest defender. Maguire, it was his responsibility to go and confront him, and he couldn't. He got done a little bit, couldn't shift his feet, couldn't shift his body weight across. So, as I said, not saying Harry Maguire is a weakness. I think, generally speaking, he has strength in that back four, but there's other areas of the pitch, centre midfield in particular, Joe, which is crying out for reinforcement, and that's a key area of the pitch. And as a time a year ago, I probably would have said Manchester United was short one top-class midfielder, thinking you could hang your hat on Matic and Paul Pogba in that area of the pitch. But Matic over the last 12 months has shown signs of just a drop-off, just in terms of age, comes to us all. So you're looking at a situation now that Manchester United midfielder, I think, probably two top-class centre midfielders have to come in, and then you're hanging your hat on Paul Pogba coming in and showing the type of attitude in terms that we haven't seen for all of his Manchester United career. So for me, that's the fundamental. You can talk about Solskjaer, has he the presence and and different other things going around the football club, but fundamentally they're short in key areas of the pitch.
Yeah, really it's a bigger story than Solskjaer, and they talked about it even during the coverage yesterday watching on Sky. 892 million sterling spent since 2013, and like Gary Neville sort of scratching his head saying, how is it that when Rashford comes off that they're left basically with nobody, that Jesse Lingard finds himself up as a false nine? And look, I know injuries can make any squad look depleted very quickly, but Martial, Greenwood, Rashford is almost what they're left with. And you just wonder, like, the things you're talking about there, two top-class midfielders, maybe another front player as well, you could be talking another 200-300 million and a few transfer windows to get them.
I didn't think the argument was that strong. I've got to be honest with you, Gary Neville's, in terms of how short. I don't think you can make that argument when you've got a significant number of players injured. And I think, read between the lines, Solskjaer was more than happy to go into the season with Marcus Rashford and Martial as his first choice number 9s. A lot of people saying Lukaku went, they didn't replace him, but for me they didn't replace him because Solskjaer was happy to go into the season knowing either Marcus Rashford would be his first number 9 and Martial in support, or vice versa. So he felt he had two top class number 9s with the likes of Mason Greenwood potentially to come in as of when and play some games. So for me, there's logic behind that, so I have no problem with that. The argument then, you can then open the argument, Joe, in terms of, well, are either of them good enough? Has the likes of Rashford and Martial got 20-25 league goals between them playing in that position as an orthodox number 9? Now, I think that one's open. That's open for discussion. But I don't necessarily think they're short in numbers. Personally, with Lukaku going out the door, I always looked as if he was going to do that. If there was an opportunity to bring somebody in, a top class centre forward, I probably would have done it, knowing that you can always utilise Rashford off the left and Martial. You could argue it's Rashford's best position where he's been most effective for Manchester United off the left. So I would have given him another little option up front, one or two injuries, or if you had to kind of just chop and change a little bit, another body high up the pitch. An orthodox number 9 probably would have given them a little bit more leeway higher up the pitch. But you're right in terms of the money spent. I was listening to that coverage as well, like yourself, and I was wondering if Jose was squirming a little bit in the seat when everybody was talking about the money that had been squandered, because he was there for whatever 2.5 years he was. And he spent a fair bit of money himself. But I think what you could say about Jose was Mourinho, the players that he had, the players he brought in, generally speaking, the team was well set up from a defensive point of view. The defensive setup was pretty good. They counter-attacked very well. Not the easiest on the eye, some people would suggest, but certainly not kind of open, and or didn't get very kind of fragmented or loose in their defensive shape, as we have seen on occasion from Manchester United this season. Yeah.
The other thing as well is this is a less important point, and I'd say you as a former professional don't think it's important at all, but they're not a very good watch either. Like, increasingly over the last couple of years, they're just quite a boring team to watch. You don't really look forward to their games.
I don't know. One man's wine is another man's poison, I suppose, Joe. I suppose if you're talking about this kind of, the Manchester United way, we expect the same type of football. I don't quite buy into that myself. We're all entertained by different type of brands of football. I'm not someone who particularly likes demand. The team that plays possession-based football kind of dominates possession, makes a huge amount of passes, complete passes, etc. I can get as much enjoyment watching a team that has less possession, maybe defends a little bit deeper, rock solid defensively, and consciously looks to play more of a counter-attacking game, but is actually very effective at it. And that's kind of, if we go back to that second half against Chelsea at Old Trafford, early in the season, I thought that was a great second half performance for Manchester United from a counter-attacking point of view.
Yeah, fair enough.
I was really engaged in that, Joe. Now, was I entertained by that? Kind of Manchester United team playing counter-attack football at home? Yeah, absolutely. I actually was.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. That feels increasingly like the exception, though, doesn't it? Like, when else have you seen it this year? What are you seeing?
No, you're right, but then you have to be set up that way. You've got to be set up to defend deep. You've got to be able to soak up pressure. You've got to be comfortable to do it. You've got to have the players to do that. And like I'm saying, I'm not exactly sure Manchester United have the players, that kind of defensive setup to do that at the moment. I don't think necessarily that's how Solskjaer is looking to play, but certainly with no Pogba in the team, when you look at McTominay, Matic and Pereira in central midfield, is anybody really expecting that Manchester United central midfield to dominate in terms of possession? McTominay's a decent enough player, kind of box-to-box, wholehearted. Matic, like I said, is not going to open you up in terms of his range of pass, and Pereira's not exactly sure what he is, a reasonable enough player. So really, without Paul Pogba, certainly Pogba's presence, that central midfield area, and I'm talking Pogba when he's tuned in, mentally and he's ready to go. Manchester, you're not going to see, for me, Manchester United during this season actually dominate the ball and dominate teams just because of that lack of quality, like I've already said, in that central midfield area. They look far more effective for me, maybe sitting a little bit deeper at times, as they did in that Chelsea game, and then go and look to pick people off with that kind of obvious pace that they have on the counter-attack. Whether that's going to be successful for the medium to long term, I'm not too sure, but at the moment, and you're right, Joe, they're not doing one or the other. We're referencing back to that Chelsea game start of the season, but that seems a long way away now.
It does, yeah. So that's United. Let's go to the game you thought I was starting with then, Stamford Bridge, Chelsea against Liverpool. Talk to me. What is it you can't wait to talk about with this game?
The only game of the... Let's go to the London Stadium for the biggest game of the weekend. I couldn't believe it.
It's more the continued paltry showing from Manchester United, which we wanted to get your thoughts on. But
yeah,
talk to me.
But this was... No, I was really looking forward to this game.
Yeah.
The Liverpool game. It was a very interesting game to watch. Liverpool, as expected, first half, really impressive. Kind of all aspects of their game, really, just in terms of its energy, intensity level. Was good, carried an attacking threat, and we're the better team. Got a little bit lucky. The Abraham chance 1v1 before half time. That Liverpool highlight again, just forcing that. That's been an issue for them a couple of times this season. Again, they got away with it, but they were kind of they were good value at a half time. But I'd have to say Chelsea, give them credit, great response. Second half, particularly the last couple of games, Christian in particular coming off the left back, to struck them across the back line. So Lampard will be hugely impressed with their performance second half, and probably deserved, you could argue, maybe even deserved an equaliser off the back of their second half performance. A little bit disappointed with Liverpool. I wouldn't say necessarily worried. I'll be worried or troubled with their second half performance. There was a little bit of a drop off.
Yeah.
The kind of ball retention wasn't as good as it should be. The front three, I thought, started to overindulge a little bit. For me, just like stupid little flicks around the corner, giving the ball away. Salah wasn't quite his most clinical best, picking the wrong options, heavy touches, giving the ball away. And again, for the Chelsea second goal, it's interesting. Like, I don't know if I mentioned to you or Jer some weeks ago about that Liverpool three in midfield. Who would be the Liverpool supporters' choice in terms of their best three? And again, there's been a lot of noise about Fabinho of late in terms of how good he is. Nobody better in the game at the moment. That kind of holding position. He's a very talented player and a very good all-round game. I'm a fan of him, but again, you saw the weakness in his game. At the weekend, the Kante goal, just that little bit maybe similar to Maguire in terms of that inability to kind of plant his feet and accelerate 10 yards in the opposite direction. A little bit of kind of dynamism to his play, just a little bit leaden foot at times. The way Kante just dropped his shoulders and didn't really accelerate too much, Joe, if you remember it. Just kind of drifted past Fabinho, just hadn't got the legs to deal with it. And if you flip back to them, if you remember the Newcastle game at Anfield the other week, when Alexander-Arnold got 1v1 against Williams for the Newcastle goal, Williams chopped back in onto his right foot, and I was expecting, just waiting for that holding Liverpool player to come across, double up, and either block that shot or force Williams into a second touch. That's generally what you ask of your holding midfield player in those situations. And I can guarantee if Jordan Henderson had been playing against Newcastle that day, he would have been across there, because he's quick over 15 yards and he's got the heart of the lungs of a racehorse, and he can get across and double up with full-backs both sides. Fabinho can, and he never got across and helped Alexander-Arnold out. The ball was in the back of the net, and it cost him again against Chelsea at the weekend. Kante just walking across him, Fabinho throwing his hands in his air looking for a bailout. Nobody should be giving him a bailout there. That's his area, the pitch. He's got to not dominate, but he's got to put his body there and at least force Kante across the pitch. Just hadn't got the legs to do it. So again, overall, you couldn't pick apart the Liverpool performance too much, and I wouldn't say I was desperately worried, but again, just a couple of those little things which I think down the road this year it might just cost them. I mean, they're in a great position. Like I said, it's hard to talk them down off the back of the where they're sitting at the moment, top of the league. People might be laughing listening to me talk, but in terms of their defensive line, again, nearly got opened up. Even late on, the Mason Mount chance, Joe, to remember. Again, that comes from the defensive line. Van Dijk's, Joe Matip again. His position's just too high. If you look at it, he's just a yard or two in advance of Van Dijk, too high up the pitch, doesn't recover quickly enough into the space when the big switch happens. Hence, Mason Mount gets in behind him and could easily have scored the equalising goal. So, look, I suppose every team, there's always small little areas you can look to improve and you have to be aware of. But overall, it was an impressive performance from Liverpool. It was job done against a very tricky game potentially against a kind of improving and emerging Chelsea team.
It is amazing to contrast the atmospheres at Chelsea and Manchester United then. They're both on 8 points and you have a real sense of worry and doom and gloom about Manchester United, and yet Chelsea and Frank Lampard are applauded off the pitch, and it's obvious why. They're a young team and there's a sense of energy about them and they're trying to work towards something, whereas there's a sense of stasis about Manchester United. The other one that I'm interested in then is Spurs, also on 8 points. So where are they on this spectrum of the doom and gloom of United to the happiness of Chelsea? I know you saw that Leicester game. Leicester beat them. Leicester are good this year.
Yeah, good, and they're a team which I thought could make the jump up from that kind of team just hovering around the Europa and below. It was themselves, Wolves, Everton and West Ham before this season. You look at them before and thought which of them can jump up this season and gate crash the top six. By virtue of the fact Wolves had a Europa commitment this year, you probably would have written them off. But Leicester, for me, were always a team I felt no commitment in terms of Europe. And from what I saw at the end of last season, we're always a team who could make that jump. And not just to jump to top six, Joe, actually to jump into the top four. Because if you're talking about, all the talk understandably has been, will it be Chelsea, will it be Arsenal or Manchester United to make that fourth spot, that Champions League spot. But if you look how Leicester performed, even this opening kind of, month, 6 weeks in the season, if you're going to make an argument for any of those three teams, and I think there isn't that clear argument for any of those three teams finishing top four, you've got to make the same argument for Leicester in terms of the individual and the collective qualities of that football team. And we've seen, I was expecting to see it at Old Trafford a couple of weeks ago. I didn't. They were just off the pace. I was really disappointed with them. A couple of poor individual performances, Carlton, Chilwell, Demore Gray didn't really turn up on that day, but they did it at the weekend against Tottenham second half. And we saw the qualities that they have and why over the course of the season, for me, they could be pushing not just for top six, but potentially top four. Maddison, for me, to become a key player for them. They shifted him out into the left wing against United, Joe, to accommodate Chowdhury and indeed in centre midfield. He becomes such an important player to them now. You've got to get him in the middle of the pitch in those central areas now. They have to get him at that central area and actually build a team around him. They did it the weekend. They got him and Tielemans in front of it, and Ndidi, which is where he likes to play. And we saw the difference that he makes against traditionally a very strong Spurs team who've been a little bit indifferent in terms of how they started the season. Don't think there's an awful lot wrong there, Joe, but I'm talking about Manchester United, kind of central midfield. And if I'm looking at Spurs in terms, again, potential weakness, where the problems are, I look to the centre of that midfield again and think maybe they're just one short in terms of a real kind of physical presence. The type of presence that Wanyama was 2 seasons ago, Joe, when he was going around the pitch, winning tackles, disrupting play, being a real kind of force of nature, box-to-box, powerhouse in that central area of the pitch. He's had a few injury problems, but I don't know what's happened to him. His performance levels have dropped off. Harry Winks is a very good player, Joe, but he's more of a ball-playing holding midfielder. Sissoko really an attack-minded central midfielder. Likewise, Ali, Eriksson, Ndombele, haven't been convinced by him yet. Lo Celso as well, we haven't seen enough of. So, for me, it's that central area in midfield for Tottenham, where maybe they're a little bit short. I mean, across the front line, they got obvious qualities and there's real talent sprinkled around the team, but just in terms of the balance in the team, for me, just maybe where they've been found out a little bit is that central. It hasn't quite got the balance right in there, whether it's a diamond they're playing or kind of 4-3-3, hasn't quite found the settled balance in that central midfield area, Pochettino, and that's, if anything, has maybe disrupted them a little bit this season, to the point where, Joe, everybody was talking about the top two done and dusted. We're all kind of agreed.
Yeah.
And then more or less general agreement, well, Spurs will be third. And then the chit-chat was, well, as we spoke about already, who's going to get that fourth spot? But just seen enough for Spurs this season. Again, the manager, a few pronouncements for the season, not happy transfer policy. Players' attitudes haven't been quite as focused as you would have expected they have done previously under this manager. So there's probably seen enough this season to suggest that maybe if there's a little bit of a drop-off from Spurs this season, again, there might be a bigger avenue, a bigger opening for those teams over their shoulders, whether to likes of Leicester, as we've spoken, potentially even maybe West Ham to go and spring and have one of those seasons where they could just actually propel themselves into a top four finish.
Yeah, it'll make things interesting. Listen, we're pretty much out of time. It's remiss of me not to mention Man City when they score 8 goals against a team. I'm not so sure what things new you can say about Man City, but right from when De Bruyne wrapped his foot around the cross on 52 seconds for Silva to the very end, they just played some beautiful stuff. We could have brought you on around half an hour in to marshal things. They were that comfortable.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But you're right in saying we've learned absolutely nothing more about Manchester City off the back of that. They're capable of doing that to any team on any given day. The problems they have, and they wouldn't have been exposed to it, is, again, as everybody knows, in the centre of their defence. They've lost their best centre half. It looks like 6 months into the season, and it looks as if they're going to have to persevere with a central defensive partnership of Stones and Otamendi, who the manager lost confidence in.
Well, they went with Fernandinho last 2 games.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But this is where he is. I think Stones is going to be out for another month. But for me, there's an argument for Fernandinho going in there alongside Otamendi or Stones when they come back. But it's not ideal. It's not the situation you want to find yourself in. If you're going to be chasing down a Liverpool team who look as if got that eye of the tiger about them this year, to have that frailty in the centre of your defence for the vast majority of the season, it's not going to cost them. It didn't at the weekend, Joe, because the ball possession is that good against kind of inferior teams. But when the big games come around, they're going to decide this season. I'm talking about Liverpool predominantly, and it may well just be that, Joe. Liverpool home and away may decide the outcome of the championship this year. If Liverpool take 4 points against Manchester City this year, for me that's going to be enough. I think Liverpool are going to win anyway, don't get me wrong. I can see Liverpool now staying top and winning the season. I don't think anybody will catch them. But I think if they take 4 points off City, as City did to Liverpool last season, that would probably do it. Because I don't think Liverpool, as they did second half last season, let that lead slip. Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen again. I really don't. I think mainly they're in a better place. I think they're hungry. Yeah. They're not going to make those mistakes again. So, yeah, great performance from Manchester City, but let's not forget about the fact where if it's what's going to cost them the league this season, it's going to be the frailties that they have bang in the middle of the centre of the fence. Yeah.
Kenny, brilliant stuff. We got there in the end.
Oh, about 10 minutes over, Joe. You're too good not to mention it.
Listen, brilliant stuff.
I'm never good at the 20 seconds. Yeah, I'm always 25, 30, haven't I? Over the period of 15 minutes, that's 20, 25 minutes, isn't it?
It sure is. Just give us a soundbite, Kenny. That's all we wanted.
Yeah, true.
No, you're dead right.
You think I'd be able to do that after maybe 10 years?
No. You're dead right. Never change. Right, go on. Good luck.
Cheers, Joe. Take care.